Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here from 9 to 5ers, and we're going to continue our part two of the two-part course of how to repair your credit. If you haven't watched the first video, check that one out first and then come back and watch this video because this is going to be implement what you learned in your credit report that you pulled on yourself. So the first one you're going to want to attack is going to be late payments. And a late payment is anything that is 30 days behind or more. And they're going to stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. So you want to minimize the damage that you have as fast as you possibly can. The longer it sits on as a late payment, the more it's going to affect your score in a negative way. So a 30-day late payment is not going to hurt your score as much as a 90-day late payment is going to. And then also a newer late payment is going to hurt your score more than one that happened 5 years ago. So if you're in a financial mess, start taking care of the ones that are currently late and then move on from there. And then multiple late payments are worse than just one. So if you have a credit card and it goes 30 days and it says, oh, you're late. And you're just like, I don't care. And then you go another 60 days and it's just like, I still don't care. And then you go another 30 days on top of that. And it's just like, now you're 90 days late. And it's just like, I still don't care. Now you're just digging yourself a really, really deep hole. So what do? Pay off the late payments as soon as you possibly can. And don't get lost in the weeds in this situation. Should I pay this 90-day one off first? Should I go back and get this one that had multiple late payments? Should I get that one current? Just start making minimum payments and getting it current. You just want to go from the I'm behind status to I am now current status, and knocking off those trade lines that are saying that you are behind. Reach out to the lender and work out a payment plan. Remember, the lender just wants your money. That's all that they want. You borrowed money from them. They want that money back plus the interest. That's all they care about. The only reason they are dinging your credit is because that's the only other option they have. They can't come to your house and beat the crap out of you. So they are doing whatever they can, and they rather have money than call up a credit agency and complain, because a credit agency doesn't give them money. You do. So work out a payment plan. If you have a bunch of different credit lines and you're just like, I can't make the minimum payments on all of these, call them up and ask and just be like, listen, this is what my situation is. I want to make it right. I don't want to go into collections. I don't want to get charged off. What can I do? What can we do? Can we cut my minimum payment in half for the next 4 or 5 months? Can we do that? Work with them, because they will probably be willing to work with you. And get the lender to report you as current. So they would call up the credit bureau and report you as, hey, this person was behind, they were delinquent, now they are current, so let's change this status. And that's going to move your credit score in the upward direction is what you want. They might not do that they might start doing that only if you start making payments and you start saying what you do and doing what you say. They're not going to just do that just because you call them up and ask them. Make some payments and then ask them to change your status. And ask for old late payments to be removed. A lot of times, if you call them up and just be like, hey man, I just kind of blew it on this one 6 months ago, and can you remove that? And they're probably willing to do that if you made that late payment 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago, and they're just like, oh yeah, no problem. And you're in good standing with them now. If you're in not so good a standing with them now, get in good standing with them now. Make those payments and then call them up and like, hey, I am current now, and there is one late payment from like 3 years ago that's on my credit report. Is there any way you can just take that off of there? I would really, really appreciate it. And they might, because there's no real financial incentive for them to tell the credit bureau that it was late. They want to work with you. They just want their money back. That's it. That's all they want. And their interest, of course, too. But they will be willing to work with you if you open up the lines of communication and start paying them back as agreed. And of course, and this is going to be for all the things we talk about today, check for errors. The credit card or lender has to prove that you were late. They have to, the burden of proof is in the accuser, just like in the court system. They have to prove that you were late. So if you have something on there that's just like, I don't think this is right, or this doesn't make any sense, I need to, like, you need to prove that this was like, just ask them, hey, can you show where I was late on this? And if they can't, then they have to remove it. Collections. This is where you don't want to go. If everything that you had in the previous slide is just in the late mode, then stay there and get out of that situation. But if you don't, or you haven't in the past, you're already in collections on some stuff, a medical bill or whatever, then that means you are 150 days late or more on this. And this stays on your report for 7 years. And what this is basically saying is that the collections in the credit bureau world is saying you gave up and they gave up as well. So if you owed ABC Banking money and you just didn't pay them for 150 days, which is almost half a year, close to, they're just going to write it off as like, you know what, this person's not going to pay us. So let's just sell this debt to a creditor and maybe they can get the money out of you. So what to do? If you paid it off, then try to dispute it. Like, hey, I paid this off. Can we get rid of this? Like, we're good now. And you might be in the section where you don't owe ABC Banking anymore. It might have gotten sold to a collections agency, and you have to call them up and then pay them back. And negotiate it down too, because more than likely they bought your debt at a discount, and just negotiate with them. Like, let's say that you owed ABC Banking $5,000. Well, the collection agency might have bought that debt for $500, and they are hoping that they will get the full $5,000 out of you, but anything above the $500 is profit to them. Pay for removal. Company has no financial incentive for keep reporting on you. They have to keep up with that. That is kind of a little bit of a gray area, because technically you were still in collections, but just call them up and just be like, hey, I messed up. I want to make it right. If I pay you guys off, will you remove this from my report? And they might do that. And they might do that just for the simple fact that when the credit agency calls them, they might just not respond. Maxed out debt. Maxed out debt is 30% of your credit score. This affects your score by 30%. And in a future slide here, we're going to show you the breakdown of what affects your score. So any credit card that has a balance of 10% or higher is going to start to hurt your score. So what to do? Well, it's pretty obvious what you got to do. Just start paying down your debt, and you will start to see your credit score increase within weeks, like literally within weeks. And it's not going to be like, if you're at 95%, like let's say you have $1,000 credit limit on your credit card and you're at $950. Well, as you pay it down, your credit score is going to go up. It's going to go up in relation to what you've been paying it down. And once you get below that 10% mark, then it should not be hurting your credit at all. So if you get below 10% on one credit card, I would switch to another credit card and start paying that one down. Just for the simple fact that you want to see everything below 10% utilization. Another thing that you can do as you're paying down your debts, you can call them up and just be like, hey, would you guys be willing to raise my credit limit? Now, this one's kind of a sticky situation, because this could be throwing gas on the fire of just like, a person might be like, oh, I have a higher credit limit now. Now I can go out and spend more money. A person might revert back to blowing their credit again. We're only going to do this if we develop good habits of paying off of our debt. But if you go from, let's say, $1,000 limit up to a $2,000 limit, well, that 950 credit utilization just got cut in half, not by you paying it down, but by you adding to your utilization, the total amount that they're allowed to give you, or that you're allowed to borrow. Bankruptcies and foreclosures. Now, these are the toughest ones out there to fight, and they are really, really, really hard to remove. There are some instances where you can remove them, but it is tough. If you were maybe, I'm just kind of speculating here, but if you were like a co-signer on a mortgage and you got a divorce with your spouse and they took you off that mortgage, and you somehow got off that mortgage, you probably could wipe that foreclosure off of your mortgage. When I say probably, I'm just kind of speculating here, but this is the toughest one to fight. And it's going to be on your record to 7 to 10 years. And I would start fighting it after the 7-year mark. If you had a bankruptcy or a foreclosure on there, for, 7+ years ago, then start to fight to get it off there, because that's going to boost up your credit score significantly. What you can do is work on everything else that we've already talked about up until the 7-year mark on that. Now, 7 years might seem like a long time, but that's the way the game is set up. The rules are set up, unfortunately. And also double check on and dispute it, because your mortgage can be sold from lender to lender, and at some point some information might have got lost in between the situation, from selling it to buying it. And if they can't prove that they have all the information on you, then they have to remove it. So there is that possibility too. But the main key goal here is to work on everything else while this is kind of going through its seasoning process. So what is a good score? And we did have this slide in the other video, but I wanted to reiterate it in this video too, because it is important. So an excellent score, you're looking at top tier rates. You're going to get the best of the best rates out there, and you can take a credit hit. So if you have an 820 credit score and you miss a payment for whatever reason, and you drop down to a 820, or no, from an 820 to an 800, or maybe like a 790, you're still going to get really, really good rates. So you can make a mistake and still be in that top tier, which is great. And very good is the 740 to 799. You might not get the top tier rates, but you're going to get really, really, really good rates. Good is 670 to 739, and this is where you are on the cusp of getting a mortgage versus not getting a mortgage. Recently, I talked to one of my lenders, and they said that 680 is their limit, and every bank is going to be different in this, but this is kind of the range where you start to see, we will give you a mortgage versus we're not going to give you a mortgage. Fair, the 580 to 669, this is where you're looking at car loans, whether they will give you a car loan or not. Some auto lenders, the buy here, pay here people, will give you a loan no matter what, but you're going to pay through the nose with that, unfortunately. But this is where you would go to a bank and you would get a car loan, and versus not being approved for one. And then also rental properties. If you're looking to rent, some property managers might say no to you in this range. And if you are in the poor status of credit, you have very, very limited options. And if you have brand new credit or you have trashed credit, this is a place that really, really does suck, but you can get out of this area. Absolutely. And you can just do that by watching our videos and applying the information to what makes sense to you guys. So what impacts your score? What do I really need to focus on first? Well, your payment history is 35%. And if you noticed, that's where we started out with in this video. Getting your payments current, wiping off those 30, 60, 90 days of late payments, getting rid of those and getting to that as agreed or current status. Amount owed, that's the next biggest one. That's 30% of it. And the top two things here, we are already at 65% of your score just by making payments and paying down your debt that is 65% of your score impact. So that is huge. Getting below that 10% utilization is key, and making on-time payments is huge. Length of credit history. Now this one is kind of just, it is what it is. If you are brand new and you don't have a lot of credit history, then it is what it is. And it does affect your credit score, and it's in third place, but it's half of second place, obviously, there. So this is the one where it's just like, time is going to prove that you are a good borrower or not. And someone that has 10 months worth of credit history is more risky than someone that has 10 years. And that's just the simple fact that 10 years is a lot more time to see if this person's a good credit risk or not. There's just more tape there. And your credit mix, that's like if you have an auto loan, a mortgage, a personal loan, a credit card. If you can handle different types and you have multiple lines open and they're all current, then that means basically to the creditors that you can just juggle more balls than someone that only has one credit card. So this one it's important, but it's really not. Look at those first two up there as this is what I need to focus on. And then the last one is new credit. If you go out and get a new credit card, then your credit score will dip initially in the fact that you just went out and applied for new credit. But what that means is that within a few months or so, your credit score will go back up to what it was, or maybe go a little bit higher, as long as you take that on that new credit and you are using it wisely. So what can you do now? You have this information, you watch both these videos, now you want to put a plan into action. Well, what can you do right now? Well, pull your credit report and get educated. Rewatch this video again and look at it and analyze it versus what I showed you up there, and see where you are in relation to what I kind of talked about. And start paying down those high balances. Start getting below that 10%. That's where you want to get, below. And then the next few weeks, after you made some payments and you are getting to the point where you are not delinquent anymore and you are getting everything to current, talk to your creditors. Go, hey, listen, I have 6 different credit cards and I can't make the minimum payments on all of them. Will you, for the next 4 or 5 months, cut my minimum payment in half? Like and as long as I make that minimum payment, you'll keep it at that level without charging me, without going back to the higher minimum payment. And then once you start to get current and you can start to remove stuff, ask for removals and fight the errors. If there's anything on there that looks like an error, that doesn't look right, then get those removed, because those shouldn't be on there in the first place. Errors can happen. Months, credit line increase. Ask for the credit line increase. Now we're at the point where everything is getting to current or is current. You're making those minimum payments. Your utilization is going down, and you are going above the minimum payments. Now you're paying principal and interest, and you're knocking those debts down. Your creditors are happy. Ask for a credit line increase, because it may take you a long time to get below that 10% mark of credit utilization. But if you can just add an extra $500 or $1,000 to your credit line and get below the 10%, that's a great way to do it too. But you have to kind of prove yourself back to the creditors when you got behind. And watch your score grow. Watch it. I mean, those apps that pull up your credit score, they are running a simulation of your credit. You're not going to know your actual credit score only if you pull your credit and do a hard inquiry, but you don't want to keep doing that. Only pull your credit when you absolutely need to, and just kind of use those credit simulation score things, those apps, as a rough estimate guide. Don't look at them as this is what it actually is. And pull your credit once a year for free, and that will not affect your score. So guys, what do you think? Did we answer all your questions? Do you feel more confident that you can repair your credit now? do you still have some questions? If you do, write them down in the comments below. What in the past has stopped you from reaching your financial goals? What types of videos would you like to see next? Please like, comment, subscribe. And if you are on Facebook, check us out at 9to5ers and follow us there too. Guys, we are here to make you smarter today and richer tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a good one.